Here we go. I think I'm recording somewhere. Recording now.
Sweet.
Hey everyone, welcome to the first podcast of Fuck Perfect. The idea where you just need to start and focus on making progress in your health and mindset. And today we have the incredible Tanner Stone. Thanks for being on my first podcast, Tanner.
I thought you were gonna call me like the Incredible Hulk, and I was like, "Arr!"
Yeah.
I was like, I've gained some weight, but like not Hulk status.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, glad to be on.
Thanks. Now, obviously, not many people know who either of us are, but if you want to share your story and maybe how you got to where you are today, condensed version of it, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I started out as a personal trainer at 24 Hour Fitness, and I think I was there for about 3 months until I realized $200-300 paychecks wasn't just gonna cut it.
Right.
And became an independent trainer at a family fitness center, and then became their wellness director, and just that's where I met a business partner, and we opened up our own gym in Sandy. He had one in Sugar House, it was, and we started Square One Fitness, and we ended up having about 6 locations within about 3 years, and I had a coach at a time, and I decided to become his coach while I had my gyms. And it's just hard to, like you've heard the saying, it's hard to serve 2 masters. And so I was like, all right, it was kind of a real grind to build the gym up. And so by the time I got the wheels on the bus, I just hated it so much. I was like, I'm done with this, and I'm going to start coaching now. And oh, shit, I can't say that word. We're just going to like rip that out. A guy that is really big and tall. So I started coaching for his company and been doing that for quite some time, and actually created my own business called Husband and CEO, and been coaching businesses ever since.
Nice. Like, what's your take on just perspective and limiting beliefs before we get into the kind of fuck perfect stuff?
That's an interesting question. So I think that there's 2 ways to go about it. I think there's limiting beliefs that actually limit us. And then I think there's people that are afraid to make the next step. And so they look inward to look for what's broken. And there's nothing broken. And that's why you can get into a huge rabbit hole. And so talking about what's forward and what comes up, it's kind of like the I want this, but whatever that next after that, but I believe that's the limiting belief, and that's what you need to work on. So that's I think the more important limiting belief to work on to push through. Did that answer your question?
Well, no, it's your take, so it's fine. You know, when I even work with people, I'll do that yeah but exercise, right? Where
Right.
you write the goal or the want on one side and the but and the reason on the other.
Right.
Either choose the goal or choose the reason.
Right.
Right. Yeah. When you're talking about limiting beliefs, I was just thinking about how, a lot of people just won't take the next step, right? Because they're too afraid. What do you think? Is it a fear or is it something else? Is it always fear?
Yeah. I mean, fear is what they feel. I think pain is what they think will happen. And by making that step, they're going to experience pain, and that's what they fear. So it's just sometimes just people need somebody to be right there with them when they make the decision and push them through, and that's all they need. But we get caught up in the circle of like, no, this must be like this deep-seated thing, and it's just hard to see. People think they're broken and they're not, and things are scary, and there's no way to make them less scary. You just have to push through.
And to tag on what you're saying, and my personal experience when you talk about being broken, and how I even come across even meeting you, is
Yeah.
I started, thinking like, okay, I felt like something was wrong with me, and I wanted to be the best dad for my kids. So the easiest, or the hardest thing is make the first step, but the most local thing that was obvious was, okay, go see a therapist, because and fix something, like fix me, what I gotta do. And I start just kind of sharing these stories of the past, and you talk about how like you're focusing on what's wrong from the past. And after about a year and a half, and not really dissing therapy, it's a very helpful tool, but for my current my specific reason and situation, I end up looking through this notebook of like, I have more. I only went in with one or two things to talk about, and now I have all this stuff, all this new stuff I didn't realize it was down there. And like this, I didn't feel better, and so I felt like, I mean, it just didn't seem like it was working for me. Then I was like, okay, somehow got into, went to UPW, and when I first heard life happens for us, not to us, it took me a few months to make that connection. Like, oh, my my experience in therapy was like, I'm just talking about how life was happening to me, and not focusing on what I want and just going for it.
Right.
Like, and that's how, if anyone out there is curious, how I met Tanner, is he became my coach, um, and it's worked on going forward. And a lot of times it could have been like, one step back, two step forward at some point. Um, but yeah, I mean, I had that initial thought myself of feeling broken, feeling like it's something I got to fix, versus on where do I want to go, what do I want to do,
Right.
and it makes, and it gives so much significance to our problems,
Yeah.
right?
And
Um,
that's the biggest addiction we have is our problems. Is a lot of times our problems are easier to have than the new or the unknown.
yeah, and so wrapping back into the like fuck perfect, is there a place in your mindset that you can share where you used to focus on perfection, maybe even not even being aware of it at the time, and how that changed when you dropped the perfection part of it?
Yeah. In my gyms, it just felt like to me, and I created my own story, but it just felt like to me when I became a personal trainer, you're supposed to know everything about fitness. People were like, yeah, my calf is twitching, and so how do I fix that? And I felt like if I didn't have the answer as a new trainer, then people would not want to train with me. And so I had to have all the answers and know all the research. And I just was like, if I become the know it all trainer, then people are like, everybody's going to want to train with me. And that just cultivated a mindset of I can't be vulnerable. And when you can't be vulnerable and say, I don't know this thing, then you never learn. And that's kind of the hardest thing when people show up of like not being vulnerable of like, yeah, I know all these things. I can get to the next level. It kept me from learning and actually asking questions. And I was able to find a community where I could be like, hey, like the first business I had was kind of a shit show, and I don't know what I did wrong. And yeah, I felt like Rocky, like I made it out alive, but I was so beat up, and I was just like, Adrian. Uh, so it was successful, but I was just beat up, and I met this community that showed me that um, you know our psychology and stuff is really important, but when you're playing in business, you have to have business strategy. And you could feel good all you want about losing money, but it's better to have the right strategy and feel because it's scary to make some moves in business. But yeah, I felt like I was trying to be a perfect business owner, so I couldn't ask for help. I was trying to be a perfect
Yeah,
trainer so I can get more clients, and it was just all bullshit. All bullshit.
it's almost like this contradiction, this conflict of like, you need to be perfect, but you can't ask for help to get better, to be closer to perfect, because you have to be perfect like right now,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. and then it only creates more, that self judgment and pain and like frustration and um, almost like it's a great topic to talk about. Almost like it brings out this fakeness in people, right? Where you're projecting this illusion, like this. Hey, look, I'm perfect on the outside, and you look at social media. Everyone's like taking selfies with cars they rent or whatever the situation.
Houses they rent.
Yeah, I was just listening to a Gary Vee podcast, and he was talking about how uh, the people are against social media, but he's like, actually, social media has got more people out of their houses because they're seeking these selfies in special places, like,
Right.
but it's like the idea of you're projecting this perfect life. And so I think this is fascinating from a mindset kind of perspective, from a psychological perspective, where you have people. There used to be magazine covers. We used to like idolize these magazine covers. Then when people started to realize, oh, they're photoshopped, oh, they're airbrushed or whatever the thing is, and they're not real. Then all of a sudden, social media celebrities kind of like threw a wrench in that, which is awesome. But it's like the idea of like, now you're comparing yourself to these social media celebrities, and then you have friends who are trying to do the same thing. So you think your friend posts the perfect picture when your house is always clean or your kids are always behaving or
Right.
whatever that is, and they're presenting this perfect life, and then they're almost in pain because when they look at their own pictures, they know it's not even real.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know who I heard this from, but it's like uh, the people that post the most on social media about how great their marriage is typically have like the worst marriages. Uh, yeah, it's just crazy the walls we put up to look perfect and how it just hurts us in all aspects of life.
Speaking of all aspects, how about like in your health? Like, was there an area you tried to be perfect, whether it's like macros or certain type of eating or not related to nutrition at all? Was there an area where if you stopped trying to hit that perfect number, did you actually get more progress?
Oh, how can I answer that? I think there's two examples there. In my eating, and when I was a personal trainer, I wouldn't eat any shit food in front of people. But then that made me super hungry. So when I was in my car all alone and I was like stopping by fast food, like I'd go to like a restaurant and eat alone and eat just crap food there, or I would like go to McDonald's and like eat in my car, but I was like trying to like have this persona in the gym, the fitness industry that like, yeah, bad, fast food's bad. And that perfection thing, I just was like eating crap food behind the scenes. Um, and then the perfect, like my number that I always wanted to hit was like 1,000 pound club, where your bench press, your squat, your deadlift, those lifts add up to 1,000 pounds or more. And I was chasing that number for a good year,
Now, is
and
that all the weight combined, or are you talking about the reps of that weight combined?
all the weight combined.
Okay, okay.
So it was like a 300 bench, 400 squat, no, 200 bench, 300 squat, and 500 deadlift. It was kind of like my goal, is what I was shooting for. And I was working towards it, and I just killed my back, my lower back. And yeah, it was a tough go at things.
Yeah. The, the one thing to not say fuck perfect to is probably form, right?
Yes, do not. Good form is always good. Like
Yeah.
no matter how tired you are, like get that form.
Yeah. I'll even myself, I'm gonna take my ego out, lower the weight, and make sure the form stays. I have the same, or used to have the same thing. This like almost I hate the word anxiety. It's so buzzy, but like I used to have this sort of fear, this of projecting perfection. If I went to the grocery store, and like, even though like no one knows who the fuck I am, like, but they can't see someone that's supposed to be this fitness coach walk around like with some Reese cups, like I can't buy them.
Right.
It's like the old fear of guys not wanting to buy tampons for their wives. You know, it's like
Right.
no, no, that's not for me. You know,
Manly people don't pick this up.
so I would even elaborate. Like I make sure I buy some like kid snacks that are like super marketed for kids when I would buy the Reese cup to sort of hide like, oh, that's probably why he's buying it. You know, like the cashier even fucking cares. You know, uh,
Right.
and I had this limiting belief, and like, I had to be perfect all the time, and then I was like you said, eating this junk behind closed doors. Uh, Not wanting to project like, hey, I'm not perfect. Yeah, and it's like the people will have a nutrition plan, right? And they'll just like you have in January resolutioners, they're doing this like insanely quote perfect, but it's actually perfection is pain, like we both know. And like they think their diet's perfect, but they're only getting pain out of it, right? And so after 2 weeks, if that, they fall off the wagon, they don't think, oh, let me get back on, let me just keep going. Like, oh, I already fucked it up. I didn't maintain a perfect streak, a perfect record, and then they wait till next year to start again. But if they were to be more honest with themselves, more real, even having that the expectation, right,
Right.
changing
Right.
from like perfect calories, perfect nutrition, whatever this is, being like, I'm just going to work for better.
Right.
Then it's like, whoa, fucking game changer. Hey, I ate a bunch of garbage on Friday night. Hey, but I did 5 days of good eating already. I'm just going to start doing it again. And that's better than before, right?
Yep.
Um, can you talk about that bike in the background there? Yeah. And
My white girl bike.
yeah, the I know you said you haven't seen the ad yet, but just the social media backlash about that in relation to fuck perfect. I think it's people have this idea of what fitness is meant for, whether it's weight loss, and people were putting their judgment on this ad. This girl who's like, oh, you already look perfect. Why do you need to exercise, right?
Right.
And
You're
so,
hurt.
yeah,
Like, come on.
to maintain the health, right? And so, whether it's a combination of mostly it's I'd say social media, but also like this kind of outrage culture we have now, where we're throwing our judgments out, waiting for some company or some person to fuck up. We negate their entire all of the good that they brought. We negate like, oh, this Peloton and bike, this is a fantastic device. Da, 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 da. We're just gonna go, oh, fuck it all. Like you made one slip up because you weren't perfect,
Yeah.
right? What's your take on that on the bike situation?
Uh, like Tay Tay says, haters gonna hate. Uh,
Yeah.
and that's the thing is, I think a couple years ago, like after I sold the gym, I, I realized that there was a big difference between health and fitness, and I didn't really understand that before.
Mhm.
In like fitness, we're talking about body composition, we're talking about performance goals, like that's fitness. Health is its own animal. It's energy, it's stamina, it's blood marker levels, and so uh, people need to exercise not just for fitness but also for health. And we just and it's media, it's I don't want to say this word, but ignorance sometimes, of like, we don't know what we don't know. And if you think that working out is only for those body composition changes, then you're just a little bit naive, and there's more to learn, and that's a great thing. Um, but yeah, we got to stop judgment of like, because I bought this for Morgan, my wife, and it's not that I was just like, hey, it's time. It was, she was like, I really want this. Like, this is something that I love cycling, and she's loved cycling for years, and I ended up getting it for her, and she's like, you need to get some shoes too, so you could do it with me. And I was like, all right. Um, but what's really kind of cool about that is we see that kind of stuff happening with Peloton. But what really kind of give me hope and actually helped me kind of break through some fears of my own was Elon Musk and him doing the Cybertruck thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this or heard about
I
it.
saw the shatter.
Yeah, it's like, we look at Elon Musk as this wizard of like, oh, he's just so brilliant. And then he's like, yeah, throw a rock at the window. And he throws the rock at the window and it shatters. That's bad enough. He's like, oh, we'll try the other window. And then that one shatters. So it happened twice to him on stage. And that's freaking awesome because nobody cares. Like it was maybe funny for a second and then nobody cares. It's just cool to see that, people forget, right? Like they forgive.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
And it's interesting you talk about that too, because I think with Apple keynotes are probably one of the keynotes people try to emulate with what they're presenting the new stuff. They never
Right.
say anything's perfect. They have other things like beautiful and da 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 da, right?
Right.
And interestingly enough, when you stop seeking perfection, whether it's fitness or any area that you're really trying to work on, that when you stop seeking perfection, you're not having that pain, you almost automatically go to a place of gratitude. And then you become happy. Like, I don't want to say you become happy, but you're almost choosing happiness over perfection, right?
Right.
If you're constantly seeking perfection, you're throwing out the option for you to be happy in that area.
Yeah. And what's interesting is sometimes I feel like the English language is limiting to our experience.
Mm-hmm.
And like so we say love in the English language, and we think love is this static emotion. You either have it or you don't. But love is a fluid concept of you love your kids in a different way you love your wife, and you love your wife very differently now that she's the mother of your kids than you loved her when you first started dating. And so just saying love, I think, limits our experience, and perfect is another word. I was sitting in a hotel with a couple friends, and we just got done with a retreat and stuff, and we were getting ready for the next day, and we were talking about perfect. And Alicia, she was saying, perfect, what it means in, I'm trying to think if it was Hebrew or something, it means whole and complete. And if we look at perfect as not flawed, but as whole and complete, and we don't search for perfect, but realize we are whole and complete as it is, I think that could give a different definition of what we're after.
Sure. So you totally fucked the idea of the podcast already on episode 1.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. No, I get what you mean. It's like it's the meaning that we give the word. It's not the word itself. It's just like that tall motivational guy that we talked about earlier. Like he made an example about holding the door open for someone. That could be considered as kind if that's the meaning you associate with it, and it could also be considered as rude because you think, oh, I can get the door myself, right?
Right.
So yeah, I guess you're right. It's the more commonly used version of perfect is just seeking to be to think that, I guess the notion of fuck perfect is fuck not feeling perfect already. It's like the idea of like you think perfect is outside of you, like you're chasing your happiness. Like I know that when like growing up with seeing my mom before she passed away, it's like her happiness was always external to her. So she was always chasing it, thinking if I just get this, and it's if you feel that whole complete perfectness already within yourself, which is the whole goal of what I try to do with my clients too, is like, hey, you are fine. Like you talked about before, you are not broken to begin with, right?
Right.
When you can grasp that perspective, when you understand that perspective and you believe it, it's like you just see the world from a whole, like there's that one, just at least 1 degree difference. Like, whoa, this is what the world looks like now. Like, this is awesome,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, like, as we kind of close up, what would be like, what? So, what are you working on now, Tanner? What are you working on now?
I'm working on my business, husband and CEO.
Yeah.
So as I was working through my business, me and Morgan, we almost separated because I was being a bad husband while I was being a business owner. I was constantly on my phone. I would just ignore her. Basically, every time we were like, I wasn't present. Every time I was with her, the phone was the priority. The gym was the priority, and uh, you know, she was a strong woman to stick with me for so long. And finally, she said, "I'm fed up," and you know that changed everything for me. And the sad thing is when I talk to business owners that have 7-figure businesses, I always ask the question, kind of as a joke, but being serious is they'll be like, yeah, I'm 3 million in business, and I'm like, same wife, and they laugh, and more times than not, they say no, not same wife. Somewhere around two, 300,000, 500,000, we divorced. But it was so great because I got to really focus on my business. Um, Husband and CEO is about getting people over that little hump, to really change their mindset to build systems in their business so they can actually really focus on the relationships that matter
Mm-hmm.
and still grow their business without them. So I focus on a very small part, a very specific transition in business. I don't claim to be the perfect guru of like, it doesn't matter where you're at in business or whatever, like I'm for you. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm for the people that love their family and need help in business. And that's what I'm working on now. I just finished up a webinar, have an amazing marketing girl that we're going to launch this. I think Monday we have our meeting. So that's what I'm working on now.
Awesome. So it's almost like, while you're growing your business, you also need to be growing your personal relationships, specifically, say, your marriage in your business model.
Exactly. And uh, there's a specific measurable way to do that. And
Yeah.
it's not a guess. It's not like, oh, this is an accident, or uh, there's a way to do it that I wish I would have known when I had my gyms.
Yeah. So can you give the listening audience and maybe the viewing audience on YouTube any like your one greatest piece of advice for them
You're
going
not
into
broken.
2020?
Stop being a bitch.
What was that?
You're not broken. Stop being a bitch.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Tanner, for being on the call. And I hope this year is really awesome for husband and CEO. If you guys are struggling in that area, just I'll put your contact information as well, how they can reach out to you in the description as well.
Absolutely. Well, Jeff, see you later.
Thanks,
And
Sam.
have a good day.
Enjoy. Bye.